Welcome back to another episode of Scrap Mechanic Labs, and today we're going to be talking about something really exciting, really cool. It's something I'm going to be calling my survival theories episode. We're going to cover a few things in this episode. The main one is how survival appears to be getting optimized. The next one, which is also really important, is about the upcoming crafting system that will be in survival. And the last thing we're going to go over is about being prepared and building on the scale of your terrain as it has appeared to us with a lot of these little previews they've been giving us in these devblog updates. Alright, so all together now, we've had 12 dev blogs. Now, things really didn't start getting all that related to survival until about devblog 7. Before, everything was just getting the game up and running, like 1 through 6, in terms of the creative mode that we've all been enjoying now. But once devblog 7 rolled around, then we started seeing more of the survival-based aspect of the game being introduced to us. We saw the green little vehicle that was left behind by the farmers that we would be able to grab and use for resources. We also saw the crates in devblog 7, which was another thing having to do with finite supplies that we would be able to carry around. And we would be using crates, and we would stack those up on our vehicles too. Now, when we moved on to devblog 8, they started talking about how they introduced the timers. And aside from it just being a neat tool for you to use in your builds, they also hinted that the timers would be a great tool for creating traps. So that's giving us another clue into the dynamic of what would be going on in the survival mode that we're playing. Okay, stick with me now, because all this stuff is going to add up to something really cool that is really helping us see what direction this is all going with the survival mode. Okay, after devblog 8, there wasn't really too much in devblog 9. But when we get to devblog 11, we're going to start getting to how survival appears to be getting optimized. In devblog 11, they show us the warehouse interior, and I think we'd also seen some pictures of a really big warehouse, but I can't get a hold of those. I know Brett Batch found the big warehouse in the code, and he loaded it into the game, and some of us got a chance to explore that warehouse, and it was extremely laggy. So as you can see, the warehouse from devblog 11, they wanted everything to be a destructible world, but it didn't look like that's what was going to happen, because there was just too much lag associated with developing in that way. So that's what brings us to this warehouse concept that we just saw here in devblog 12, as well as these other important photographs that they're showing us. The reason why I think it's really going to stick this way is because these warehouse photos show the warehouses rendered like they're a part of the terrain. If you look in this photograph here, they have all these blue things. I'll zoom in a little bit. They look like wheels. Or maybe they're vegetables, some kind of vegetable. But the point is, they have everything grouped together as sort of like a resource pool. This is really going to help reduce lag and make it so that, since we don't have millions of parts, we'll just be moving parts as, say, numbers, and grabbing so many out of this crate, moving it to another crate, and then taking that to wherever we're going to be building. So, yeah. That will work much better for survival. I'm almost certain about it. Another thing that helps us see where survival is going is in this picture here. It shows how this ramp comes down off of one of the new warehouses, and it connects seamlessly right with the terrain. Okay, obviously this means that the warehouse itself is being included as a huge terrain object. That means, like they said in the dev blog when they were talking about the warehouses, they had to do some trade-offs for optimization. Instead of everything in the terrain being destructible, the warehouse like making a hole and escaping through the hole, no. It's almost going to be like a warehouse kind of maze now, where you go into it and you're not going to be able to break stuff around you, just like in the terrain world. You can't break rocks or stuff like that. You'll have to pretty much find a way to deal with those obstacles. Still offers an awesome point of creativity. I'm not knocking it. I think it's going to be super cool once it's out, because I'd rather play in a game that's not laggy than in a game that's super laggy, because it kind of totally defeats the point. Alright, before I get too far off track, we talked about the warehouses. Now, let's talk about the crafting system and something else I'm going to call visual recipes. Now, I know a lot of you guys probably play Minecraft, and Minecraft has a lot of recipes where you just sort of arbitrarily have to grab these different parts, you throw them all together, and something pops out. With this system that I think they're developing in Scrap Mechanic, look at this picture of this spud gun that they gave us in devlog 12. You see the little broom handle at the end, you see the different pipes. A lot of these parts I recognize. A lot of these parts are already in creative mode. I am really excited to predict. I can't make any claims. I'm not affiliated with them in any way. All I could say is it looks really, really good. Like we're going to have a visual crafting system. This is new ground, all right? With a visual crafting system, let's say I'm hopping along through a little warehouse, la-di-da-di-da, and I see a broom over there, right? It's got the broom handle and it's got the little broom part on the end. I would instantly know that I could use the bottom end of that broom, that sweeping part, as a part of a spud gun that I could create. That's visual recipes. That is such new ground. That is so amazing that you could literally be going through, seeing things. Wow, I could use that. Oh, wow, I could use that. Grab it and MacGyver together weapons. If those recipes are supported, and if you will have some kind of, say, workbench, which we could equivocate to Minecraft, where you would grab these parts, you'd put them together in the workbench, and out pops a functional. Or maybe you actually put all the pieces together, and the last thing you would need, for example, in the spud gun would be like some kind of CO2 cartridge to power the compression that would be needed to fire something out. And you'd get this, you'd take it to the compressor, and when you'd put it in, it activates it as a weapon now. But that would be utterly amazing. That is what I'm calling a visual crafting system. I've never played a game that's like that. I mean, this is something to really be excited about. And with the kind of optimizations that I was just talking about with the warehouses, it means that I think it's coming a lot sooner. It's going to get here soon. They're doing the right stuff to make the game playable for groups of people. And for the Scrap Mechanic community, as far as my community that I'm growing with so many people who love to play together and interact, that's really important that we're not lagging like crazy all over the place. So, last point I want to hit upon in this extremely long-winded discussion, but it's still very important, is building on the scale of your terrain. Now, for the longest time, with all my little duckies, who I interact personally with, and with you guys, my YouTube watchers, I have always pushed the narrative of smaller is better. Build little, get the most out of the fewest parts, and to me, that is a demonstration of real genius, alright? Do more with less. Wiz did an awesome motorcycle. I'll put a little clip of that in here. I was so impressed by it. It worked really good. And the reason why I want to keep pushing that narrative of building smaller is better is because of this. Let me throw this picture of this warehouse in. Now, if you look at this warehouse, even though it's a huge warehouse, the spaces in between, all the areas which you'll be getting to from one place to another, is very much on the scale of a dwarf. And if you want to build and move around in your giant mecha, that's great to do in a creative setting, but it might not be so practical in a survival setting. The helicopter landing pad, it's really not that big. You're going to have to build a small vehicle that will be able to fit on that helicopter landing pad if you want to fly there and land on that warehouse. Building small is better. Building small and getting into the habits of doing smaller things will make it so that more of your friends could play in the world, which makes the world way more fun, and you'll be able to interact in the survival setting much better too. So please do yourself a favor. If you're getting ready for survival like I am, keep the builds small, keep them useful, and make sure every block that you're putting into that build is useful for something. And you will be a survival expert. So I think that about covers it. We went over visual recipes, which blew my mind. We talked about building on the scale of your terrain, and we went over how survival seems to be getting optimized. So that was awesome. That was incredible. Keep dreaming, keep building, guys. I was your host, Chief Engineer, reminding you all that you can do it as long as you put your mind to it. Remember to put those friendships first. Build those up, make them strong, and everything else is so much easier. Until next time, adios.
I think we might like this a water area and a slide. I think they might like